Welcome to Shape the Podcast, a podcast all about maintaining mental health by sharing stories from those who have overcome negative experiences and feelings, then turned them into something positive. Meet your host.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shape the Podcast. I'm Kyle Waller on this side of the screen, and
I'm Jason.
Yeah, that's Jason. Those of you who don't know Jason, Jason is one of the co-owners of Lucky Boy Beard Co., and he is my co-host. Buddy, I'm glad you're back this week, sir. I missed you 2 weeks ago.
Good to be back. I wish I didn't miss that show last weekend, but I had a very unfortunate situation with a friend, and we lost a friend and had a little kind of memorial, and
yeah,
I had to choose, and I had to choose that one.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you were there for your friends because, you know, and unfortunately it was a sad incident that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But glad to have you back, man. I'm excited about the podcast tonight because you got to meet this gentleman in January at You Matter, and this is somebody that I've followed on Facebook for a while, and I'm excited because of who he's friends with. Right? He's friends with Shannon Klinkenbeard. Right? You said you. I mean, yes, yeah. I'm excited because he's a friend of yours too.
I mean, listen, I carry him with me on my cigar case every day.
He is there. Yes,
he's there. And he's with me in spirit. He's with me in smoke.
Yes. And speaking of, for those of you who don't know, our guest tonight is Mr. Jeff Raye. Right? Jeff is from the Austin, Texas area. And so, you know, without further ado, I'm not going to waste any time. Right now he's sitting outside looking all distinguished. I'm surprised he doesn't have a cigar in his mouth right now, but let's bring him on. Let's banter with him, and then let's just get into the show. How about it?
Let's do it. Bring him on.
Hello, fellas.
What's up, sir?
Hey, good to see you again, Jeff.
Podcast.
How are you guys?
I mean, if I wasn't any better, I wouldn't be here.
That's true. That is true. 6
feet above, not 6 feet below. That's what I like to say.
Well, you know? in my current line of work, I'm kind of doing both of those things nowadays. So it's kind of
true. Yeah. So for those of people that aren't watching, introduce yourself, number one, and then we'll talk about your line of work that you're doing.
All right. I'm Jeff Raye, part of the Austin Facial Hair Club. I've been in the bearding community since about 2012. I've seen a lot of changes and enjoyed a lot of it. Had done a lot of changes with myself, and I was felt honored to be asked to be on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, you know, it really happened because of that man right there, right? Because Jason was able to meet you in January at You Matter, and when two guys that like cigars get together, it's always a good time. Plus, I've, you know, like I said earlier, I do like to smoke myself, you know, a pipe every now and then. I actually have some GLPs.
Oh, there you go.
Beside me as well, yeah. So I'm glad you're on, you know, because I followed you on Facebook, and it's glad to see you in person, I guess you would say, instead of on the socials. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. And so you were talking about, so you work in the undertaking side of things now. So
yeah. What had happened is that my mother had passed away. It was 2 years ago, November. And then I was taking care of her spot, and she was her spot was really pristine with where I was at. I was making sure that the grass was cut and it was watered and what have you. But the rest of the cemetery, which is like 10 acres, just wasn't really being kept up. And it was like grass was heads overgrown on headstones and the fence, and it just looked kind of run down. So me being me and asking for forgiveness is a lot easier than asking for permission. So I just rolled up with my lawnmower and chainsaw and weed eater and blower and came out there, and I just started working on it. And then the bosses came out, and they knew that they weren't going to change my mind. So they decided that they would kind of pay me under the table a little bit. And I said, that's fine, whatever. I wasn't really there for the money part of it, because I was taking care of my mother's neighborhood, is the way I looked at it. And then they ended up firing one of the guys. And then the other guy, they offered me that part-time job. And I had been retired for several years because I was caretakers for my folks. Well, especially my mother before she passed, and then my dad needed some help too. So I was my shop was behind their house. So I would come up and do my little sunny doos around the house and say if they needed anything. And then if they didn't, I'd go back out in the shop and I'd make something. If they needed something, they'd just call me. Anyway, so the guy, I took the part-time job, and then the guy thought that he was training me to be his helper, but he was actually training me to be his replacement. So they really wanted me to take over the position, and I went ahead and took it. And I'd made changes there. There was just kind of common sense type stuff in my mind, but they thought that I had been in fire, so they was like, I'd never seen anybody use so much common sense. And I was going, oh, that's kind of crazy.
What's that common sense? What is that?
Yeah, it's really becoming really, really rare these days. So my daughter had asked, she worked for a survey company and was doing pedicabbing at night downtown. And her land surveying thing had kind of hit the top where there was no more way for her to go up. Yeah. And she was asking me about part-time job. And I said, well, why don't we talk to my guy and see if you can't come on with me over here. And the next thing you know, her work ethic is not very far from mine. Actually, it kind of oversees it a little bit nowadays. She's making me look bad. She's outworking me like crazy. And
imagine that.
Yeah, it's she makes me proud every day that I see her doing it. And what makes it outstanding is that we were estranged for about 7 years. I hadn't seen her. It was kind of all in lines with my drinking back in the day, and then she left when she was 17, and then we ended up getting back together when she was 25. So it was kind of really changed our dynamic. And then being able to work with her every day, and being able to rebuild a relationship with your daughter in a position where you're trying to take care of my mother, her grandmother's place. She takes pride in her work, and it just really makes my heart kind of swell out a little bit. Makes my heart grow 3 sizes, I guess you'd say.
But by the way, I know somebody who works in the concrete business, like doing some like pavers and things of that nature, who could probably give you an end for like benches or some type of cool cemetery stuff. I'm just saying. But
I do have some cool stuff. I mean, freight from Connecticut to Austin, Texas might be a little pricey.
That might be that might be cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't offset the cost of freight far outweighs the donated value.
Yes, that's so true.
So it's weird now that I've taken over that whole as a superintendent out there. I'm in charge of the grounds. We're in charge of putting up monuments and flat markers and such like that. But I'm also in charge of doing the opening and closing. Let's just say we're opening up the grave.
Yeah.
And then when the service is over, we're lowering it, and then we're refilling the hole back up, but I'm also in charge of doing the cremations there too, which was kind of a weird thing at first.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, and it's really weird because I kind of looked at it the other day. I was kind of curious. I was wondering how many I've done, and the short time that I've been doing it, I've done close to 80 cremations so far, which is astonishing to me. But
That's eye opening.
It's very industrial, but I try to keep as much respect all the way through the whole procedure.
Yeah.
But I just kind of feel like I'm the last person that deals with this person on this mortal coil, so yeah. I try to be as respectful as I can, and because that's definitely how I'm going to end up. I've already decided, and I've already discussed it, that I'm going to make my own urns. I'm going to make 3 for my kids, and then I'm going to make 1 for the cigar vault in Buda, and I'm going to quarter myself out, and then on my birthday at the vault, I'm going to give them a list of cigars I like, and then they're going to tap new ashes into the urn for me on my birthday.
All right, now come on, that is cool. I like that idea.
So I'll be sitting up there on the shelf with a picture, me.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit on the shelf, and every July 1st, they're going to smoke a cigar and put a new ash in there. So I think I'd be happy that way. So
that is, I mean, I hate to say
it definitely takes ashes to ashes to a whole new level.
To ashes for sure, yeah. so let's dive into really why I want you to come on. I know that you are sober, and that you've had some quite years of sobriety, but man, let's dive into that a little bit. Let's dive into the Jeff who decided to get sober, and then we'll dive into how life is now. So
all right, well, I'm 60. Let's just put it in perspective. So I'm 60 years old, and I'm the age of when drinking age was 18. And then they changed it to 19 on my birthday. And then they changed it to 21 on my birthday. So I was never, let's say, illegally drinking. But, It was, I grew up in the 80s, and we were, that was the way it was. It was like, everybody had to drink. You got to drink. You got to drink,
Mm-hmm.
So we did. And, I used it to, I had a lot of insecurities in myself. I didn't really think a whole lot about myself. But whenever I did drink, I felt like I'm much more fun when I'm drinking. I gotta be, that kind of thing. So that's how it started. So I ended up drinking quite a bit. So I've been drinking actually since I was, 16, 17 years old. And as I progressed, I worked for Budweiser for several years. And this was back in the late 90s. Yeah. No, excuse me, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s is when I started working for Budweiser. And then I ended up getting a couple of DWIs back then.
All right.
And they weren't as strenuous back then. Yes, it's still a black mark, but it wasn't as horrible as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would continue to drink. I would continue to drink because I just didn't think I didn't really have a problem. I would drink to hide stuff, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I just thought everybody drank a 12-pack and then like a fifth of whiskey usually, which seems like a lot. I mean, it is a lot.
Yeah.
So
I would say a 12-pack. It depends. So like here in Ohio, we have these things called Little Kings, and they're little alcoholic cream ales. They're about that yay big. You could drink about 24 of those in one setting. So but yes, a 12-pack and a fifth of whiskey would put me on it for sure.
Yeah. So and it was just, and I was bouncing in clubs, and I was kind of in the the nightclub scene, and everybody wants to be friends with the bouncer, so they end up giving shots to the bouncer and that kind of situation, and I was 27 when I had my first kid, and I've got three children, but my drinking had really messed up with a lot of my relationships. My relationships with the kid's mother was always bad because I was drinking. I ended up having a bad relationship with my oldest daughter because I was drinking. I was estranged from her for several years. So and then it just currently, then about 8-9 years ago, things had gotten really bad. It was like, I got 2 more DWIs. So now I'm really I wasn't doing well. I was I was on paper with the county. My relationships was going to shit. I was having to go to jail and then go to what's called SMART, which is a county-run inpatient rehab, which would be like it would be 5 to 6 months inpatient, and then you'd be 6 months of having to go to classes every 3 days a week, and then being on colors and stuff like that. So the county was in my shit the entire time.
Jeff, what does that mean, on colors?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
When you're on colors, is that you had to call the probation office every day,
All right.
and they assigned you a color, and if your color didn't get called, if your color got called on that day, you had to go to the probation office and do a piss test and a breathalyzer.
Gotcha.
So they were making sure that you were there.
Yeah.
You were following.
Right. So it's a way of randomizing testing.
Right. So
Gotcha.
I think I would have done a lot better going into SMART if I went directly into SMART, but I had to wait for 4 months in county jail until my wife got out of SMART before I could get into SMART. See, our problems were really commingled into the drinking area.
Yeah.
So when I finally got out of SMART, I decided that I've been in trouble with the law with it before, and I always said, as soon as I get done with the law part, I'm going to go back to drinking. I'm just going to go back to drinking. But this last time was enough. After 9 months of being locked down, and then another 6 months of basically being able to drive around, but you're locked down, it was just, that was enough. That was the consequence that that broke the camel's back. And that I decided that I was going to make a post on Facebook saying that, and this is exactly what I was saying. I said, listen, I've made a decision to better my life. If you support my decision, great. We will continue to do what we're doing. If you don't support that, then I'm just going to have to say goodbye. And then we'll just have to say, because I have to take care of myself and my my family.
Yeah. You didn't want to talk to people.
Yeah. And I had gotten so much response. I got like 500 responses and about 100 private messages from bearding people that I truly admire and respect, and found out that, oh, I'm 10 years sober. I'm 9 years sober. I'm 35 years sober. That kind of thing. Hey, if you need somebody to hang out with, come hang out at my table. We'll drink sparkling waters all night. That kind of shit.
Speaking of sober people, one of our viewers, Tad Hardy, is actually a member of the sobriety community in bearding. And like we were saying before the show, it's amazing how many people that I've met in bearding that are sober. Like I mentioned, Brad, Felipe Pasternak. Like
Taco is a nut job, and if I had met him when he was drinking, I don't know what I would do. He's already crazy enough as it is.
Yes, he is, and he's sober. And
Yeah,
and that's the thing. That's like you can have fun and be that crazy and be sober.
right.
So,
But
yeah.
I had gotten so much support and so much, because my dad was really upset that I was going to continue with my bearding people when I was trying to be sober, because my dad's the John Wayne pull yourself up by the bootstrap kind of guy. You need to change your friends and all this other stuff, which some people have to. But I just felt, especially since, the Austin Facial Hair Club is sponsored by Lone Star and Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. Think about it. Drinking is a big component in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, during our comps, we would always have this big Irish toast. So they would pour all these Irish whiskeys out, and then they would pour me out a club soda shot so that I was part of it. I was part of it. I was part of the toast. I was part of the group, but I stayed within my boundaries, and they stayed within their boundaries also, which was which is very respectful, I think, in my mind.
Especially with those guys, because that group of individuals, with Jimmy and all them, they're pretty crazy. They're pretty crazy in their own right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Jimmy's pretty weird on pure air, more or less than anything else.
Yeah.
But like I was telling you before, is that the thing about it is that I've had, and ever since then, and I didn't really want to beat people over the head with my sobriety talk.
Yeah.
Some people get really antsy about that kind of thing, because I never was a stepper. I never did really follow a 12-step program. What I did is that I got tired of the consequences. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore. Majority of my problems that I had an alcohol component. So if you continue to have the same problem, let's start taking stuff out and see if things work. So I took the alcohol part out and started working on myself, because I was always been an angry kind of guy. I've always had a temper. My martial arts had kind of toned a lot of that stuff down. So you've never really lived until you choked most of your friends. It's always fun. It's a big stress reliever.
Jason, I'm gonna need you as a volunteer, sir. The next time, I really want to live, so I need to choke you out. Okay.
Just kind of get
that was never my kink, but I guess we can try.
No. Those of you who are watching, do not do that. Okay.
Right. So I really had to. But once you get sober, you kind of have to start working on yourself to make yourself happy.
Yeah.
And so I dove headfirst into cigars. I dove headfirst into making stuff. I'm a firm believer in that. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. So if you catch yourself in your head too much, and I have that problem, I still do it to an extent. But if you find yourself and you're sitting in your room and you're just watching TV and you're just wondering about shit, I go outside and I'll smoke a cigar, or I'll go out in the shop and I'll start making something out of something else. And it takes your head
I don't
off.
think it's as much the idle hands, it's the idle mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get, but if I'm sitting still long enough, my mind's just going to start spinning off its axis. So I got to be able to put myself to something else. And if I'm able to do that, then I feel a lot better about myself in general. But I've had, ever since all this stuff has happened, or ever since I've been kind of making sober posts, I'll post up a milestone or something. Now I've been a little bit more vocal this past year. I've been a little bit more vocal about it, because I decided that, I've got enough time underneath my belt that I could, it's not a fluke, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've had people message me and was say, "Hey, I'm having problems with this, and how do you and I have to warn them, and I have to tell them that there's no silver bullet for any of this. What has worked for me may not work for you, but what I do tell them, and I think that is a solid answer is that you could do anything for an hour."
Yeah.
And that if you need to, you say that, okay, I'm drinking too much after I come home. I said, okay, well, let's from when I get home at 6, I'm not going to drink from 6 to 7. And then you go do something else, and then by 7, you're in the middle of doing something else or what have you. And if you get to 7, I said, okay, well, let's see if we can't make to 8. And I'm a firm believer in getting a counter on your clock, on your phone, that shows a physical start date. This is my sober date. Okay, so let's get a weekend. Okay, so I got 1 week. All right, let's see if I can't get 2. In 3, I got a month. All right, let's see if I can't make 2, and then just keep continuing going and setting yourself some smaller goals. So it's because my head always pops off when somebody would say, okay, what is your 10-year plan? I don't have a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
I have a plan. I got a plan for this week. I got a plan for, travel plans. I got, several months out, but I purposely make myself small goals, reachable goals that you can hit. So that, because we're human, we like to be able to achieve something. So if you're able to achieve that goal, all right, I got this. So let's just build up on that and just keep continually building up your goals. And the next thing you know, you got 3,000 days and you're living life better than you ever had before.
But you're also not thinking about, and that's I think way too many people get wrapped up in the ahead. You have to set those boundaries and those limits as far as you can.
Right.
Like for me, 1 minute is 1 minute, 1 hour, but to some people, 1 hour is a lifetime.
That's true.
And so it's like for me, I believe that you have to set those reasonable goals, those reasonable expectations for yourself. And once you reach that goal, then you extend it, but it does help, like you said, for anything. Like I have a counter going on right now for July for Worlds, and it helps me prepare myself for that, so it's all really, it's all about setting those limits of what you can do in your mind, because some people can't do it for an hour without having to reach out for help,
Then reach out for help. And that's the thing is there's a lot more people out there that are in the same boat than you even realize. Yep. And that's what really shook me. I say shook, but when I had made that Facebook page 9 years ago, there were so many people out there that, oh, well, I'm sober or this. And then now I've got several people have contacted me and was asking about it. So it warms my heart thinking that you're able to help somebody or give them advice. But also too, is that you have, and then I'm also brutally honest with them. I'd say, listen, the thing about it is that this is not a team sport. Trying to quit drinking is not necessarily a team sport. You definitely need to have a good team with you, but it's completely up to you. That decision falls on you. And that we could take somebody to rehab 18,000 times, and until that switch gets flipped, and until they decide, okay, I've had enough, this is all I can take, I have to make a change, then none of it's going to work. It will not work. But
Right.
I truly believe that everybody has to have some kind a support system, somebody they can talk to, somebody they can bounce shit off of, somebody they can comfort and ask for advice. But it all boils down to what you do as a person.
Yep.
And that's just because, like we were talking earlier, is that, I was drinking so much and hiding so much and trying to use alcohol as an escape from my other problems. I've had 4 or 5 suicide attempts, a couple of in extreme ways too. I mean, you don't normally hang yourself and then survive, that kind of thing.
No.
You don't cut veins open and survive. You don't try to OD on stuff 2 or 3 times and survive. So I figure I'm either really bad at it or there's something that I need to be doing. And there's something. So I'm choosing that there's something else I need to do.
Yeah. Or there's somebody else out there that is saying, hey, buddy, it's not your time to be putting that oven yet. You know what I'm saying? That's true.
So,
that's what I'm thinking about it,
You got to think about it. A lot of people, there's some people that will say that suicide is a coward's way out. Yeah. And I don't really see it that way. I see it that somebody has struggled so hard and so long and trying to they're trying to alleviate pain for other people and themselves. And they think that the only way to do that is to extricate themselves from the situation.
Because it's hard to ask for help,
Yeah, because there's a stigma to
it. Especially with men,
Right.
With men, we don't like asking for help with anything, especially when it comes to our own mental health or our own personal things that we're dealing with. Because what's that make us look? That makes us look weak.
Right.
Like we're not strong enough. And so sometimes, unfortunately, the only thing in our mind is I'm just going to go ahead and just end my life because then my life will be over, and I won't be causing anybody issues.
And then everybody else's will be better too. So.
Yes, but technically speaking, that's when the issues come, because what you're really doing is you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting those around you who you may not realize love you and care for you.
Right.
I mean, it's, and I've been there. I'm a 3-time suicide survivor, but it's all about, really doing the steps that you need to take care of yourself and to survive. And I think people forget about that. Don't. Oh, I see Jason's popping up some comments, and that's a good one right there. The only thing worse than being sober and wanting to be stoned is being stoned and wanting to be sober.
It's true.
Yeesh.
Yep.
Because you find yourself in that position.
Then
you make yourself feel worse because, I didn't make it that day. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
So every day's a new day, and that's why my counter, I use on my counter, I counter daily. Not only because I have a daily counter, because the number's bigger, it makes it sound a lot better. 3,000 days is about 8 years and 3 months, 4 months. But if that's the number, if that's the thing that'll help you get over the hump for that day, then that's what it is. And then I continually look at mine every now and then, whenever I do get kind of, I get situation stuff or I get upset about something or other. And then, it really hasn't happened lately, but there was a time like about last year, I came really close to going back to drinking again.
Yeah.
And I went back to the cigar vault, and Brian Foley, the general manager over there, he's a big stepper. He's like 12, 14 years sober. I pulled him over and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm having a hard day. I almost stopped at the liquor store before I came over here." And we sat there and we talked for like 2 hours and, shot the shit and smoked and then kind of talked it out a little bit. And I don't think I would have, but I was a lot closer than I felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
So,
And
I
now,
I just can't. I wouldn't survive another going back in because
now
I think,
because of what you do now, because your current job now in the day is you work in the funeral business.
Right.
You dig graves and you do cremations. That has to remind you also of, man, like I could be here in the ground, or I could be being cremated right now. Had I not changed my ways,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a very eye opening thing. And by the way, Mr. Victor Gutierrez wants to thank you. He's 941 days sober. That's pretty amazing, And but yeah, it's you have that, like for me, for instance, is my days are 24-hour periods. We're not guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. Neither one of us are. None of us are. If I wake up tomorrow morning, I'm glad to be awake.
Yeah.
And if I make it through that whole day, I'm glad to be awake. I'm glad to have made it. I'm glad to be there. And that's one thing that's my constant reminder. I don't get so wrapped up in my own head, because here's the thing. I know that had I committed the suicide attempts, like I said, I wouldn't have been hurt. Just not hurting myself, but hurting others. I mean,
but I just feel really blessed that I was able to get sober before my mom passed.
Yeah.
I was really glad that my dad and I have a better relationship now. We're a lot alike, so we butt heads quite often. Roles have kind of changed. He used to tell me what to do all the time. Now I'm telling him what to do.
Imagine that.
Yeah, but our relationship is a lot better than it was.
The
relationship with my kids, my two oldest kids, and Sarah, the youngest. I got relationships with my kids now. I'm happy with my own company, which is something that you definitely need to be able to be good at. You got to have to be good in your own skin, and realize that you're enough for you.
Yeah.
And as long as you're enough for you, and and you can make yourself happy or comfortable, and then with us and Bearding Guys, so that if we're able to raise money for like charities and then get to see all our friends and then continue to do what we do, because I'm going through a divorce, some things just couldn't be changed, and I get down about that, but I look back at it now saying that I got a relationship with my friends and my family.
Yeah.
I have sister-in-laws that I love dearly and that they are behind me at all times. I have a lot of people in my corner, but it still falls upon me to wake up in the morning and say, okay, this is what I got to do today. Yep. This is what I'm not going to do today. And see if we can't make a good day out of it and just continue to do that. And I think if we do that more often, I think everybody would be in, I stay in my lane. I take care of myself and my people and just move forward. And I think today's climate is just kind of crazy. It's just everybody is waiting to become offended about something. It didn't used to be that way. You didn't want to be offended. Now it seems like everybody's waiting for the opportunity to be offended so they can sit there and thump their chest. I stay in my lane. You guys do what you need to do as long as it doesn't affect me. Cool. You go on, let your freak flag fly. I could care less. Do whatever you need to do, but as long as it doesn't impinge on me or hurt me or my family, then I think then c'est la vie. Let shit go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think everybody would be a lot happier.
Agreed.
I really do.
Well, we all get wrapped up in trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Look at that! I just threw confetti up in the air. I don't know how.
Yeah, how did that happen?
So I have an iPad, so I don't know how that happened, but yeah, only I can do that. And it just happens every time. But that's the thing.
I don't even have anything to throw up in the air.
I know. Sorry.
I feel left out.
But that's the thing. If we, like you said, if we stay in our own lane and we don't get wrapped up in trying to be like everybody else, because we can only be us, and you can only be you. Like Jason can only be Jason, Jason might want to be somebody else, but Jason can only be Jason. Jason was born to be Jason. I was born to be Kyle. You were born to be, Jeff. And so many people get wrapped up into trying to do like others, trying to be like others. Be yourself,
I enjoy myself, and I enjoy my own company now.
Yep.
Before I had to try to make everybody happy, which is never going to happen. It will never happen. But if you're able to if you're able to make yourself happy without hurting anybody else, and I think that's key. I think there are factions out there, and there's craziness on both sides of the aisle. I just don't even want to talk into politic type things, but there's fanatics on both sides, so nobody's clear. Let's just put it that way. Nobody is innocent on that whole thing. Mm-hmm. There's fanaticals on either side, but I think that if you're able to just take care of yourself and your family, be good, be good, act good, and you'll get good. Is kind of my nuts and bolts.
Well, it's kind of like the golden rule,
It is the golden rule. I mean, I think we need.
Be kind, treat others with kindness, and you'll get it and back.
I'm just, I'm right on the edge. I'm a Gen Xer, and that, we drank from the hose and rode in the back of pickup trucks and stayed out until the street lights came on and that kind of, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That doesn't happen these days.
Yeah. It's just, I don't think my parents knew where I was for most of the, until I heard my name getting called out when the street lights popped on. I knew I needed to get back to the house.
Yeah.
So I just think that, there's nothing wrong with new, but I think sometimes you need to kind of go back to old-fashioned value type situation, which means treat people with respect, and then you'll get treated with respect. Right. And if people are treated with respect to each other, then you can't help but have a good life. You just can't. I mean, that's just the way it is. Don't treat somebody like, that you don't want to be treated. And I think that falls upon on a mental health issues is that I think people dive off into their head so much that they're continually being offended, or I can't, this person has this and I should have this. And that makes their heads pop off and they go off into the head. And I'm a firm believer in better living through chemistry. I've been taking what am I taking? Shit, I can't remember what it is, but I've been taking it for like 20 years. And I don't know if it's helping me, but I don't want to find out if it's not.
Yeah.
I've been taking it because I had a really bad neuropathy in my feet. So I'm taking like 3,400 milligrams of gabapentin a day. And I was taking 900 milligrams of Lyrica a day and 1,000 milligrams of Aleve a day just so I could take the edge off of my feet.
Yeah.
And physical pain and chronic pain will drive people nuts too. So for there was a time that I couldn't walk barefoot. My feet hurt all the time. Chronic, constant pain will drive you insane. Mom had that. She had that fibromyalgia, so she was always hurting all the time, and she just would be sitting there, and it would just make it hard to see. But now that I faithfully take this medication, it's kind of it's a mood stabilizer, but it's also a nerve pain pill too. So it's like I get 2 doses off of it. So now
I think it's awesome that you're able to do that, because that's also one thing that some people get addicted to is those pills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And but also that's one thing that's forced down our throats. Like that's
True.
all you see. Take this pill.
Right.
This pill would cure all.
Right.
Or do this, do that. And it all comes down to willpower. Number one, we if we have the will to make the changes that we need to make in our lives to be a better person, to be better humans, then we can make those changes. But like you said, it's all about having that support around you. You want to have that support.
I was finally able to put one of those spinal cord stimulators in my back. So it's kind of like an implanted TENS unit. Yeah. So I don't have to take as much medication as I used to. So, and my feet, they're 60-year-old feet. They're going to hurt,
Yeah.
But I can walk barefoot now, which is a good thing. Every now and then you just need to walk barefoot. And then before I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It was just, I wouldn't be able to do it at all. But I do believe that, on the medication side, I think within reason, if you need to take some kind of a mood stabilizer or some anti-anxiety type thing, and use it limitedly, just sparingly.
Yeah.
Don't get too crazy with it. But if you need help, you need help. But also too is that, we got Big Pharma throwing, they thought OxyContin was the end all cure all, and see what we've got run into now. I mean, it's just, it's insane how the medications like that will take somebody that's already predisposed to either, an addictive personality. You get them on like oxys like that. They feel better. They want to feel better more. They want to feel better more often. So they'll continually take it. And then it just dives them into a wormhole. And, a lot of the people that you wouldn't even think that, they got hurt. They got hurt. Their back hurt or something. They were prescribed to a doctor. It's not like they were out there looking on the corner for heroin. And the next thing you know, they're on the corner looking for heroin because they can't get the oxys that they used to.
Yep.
So it puts people into a position that are already fragile. Well, let's not say fragile. Let's just say that they're predisposed to the addictive type situation.
Yeah.
Because everybody, there's addictions for everything, and you can overdo anything.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
I can overdo.
This. I can't overdo cigars though. That's an impossibility.
Never. You can never overdo cigars.
I can never over. If I OD on cigars, I just had a lot of good cigars.
well, Jeff,
I'm going to defend Jeff's position on that one.
Yes,
thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think everything is good in limitations, gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when it comes to cigars and pipes. Well, Jeff, man, thank you for coming on tonight and sharing. But before we wrap up, I like to ask my guests if there's anything that you can tell somebody who's going through anything right now, whether it be depression, thoughts of suicide, anything like addiction. If there's anything that you can tell somebody to help them out, to make them better, what's that? What can you? Words of wisdom. Let's do words of wisdom by Jeff Raye.
I just say, please don't give up. There's brighter days ahead. You may not see it. A lot of the times you're not going to be able to see it because your head is in the storm, but there's other people that have been out that have gotten through that part. And there are brighter days ahead. If you're able to survive until you're able to talk to somebody, you need to talk to somebody. And I'm more than willing to be able to be that guy. I consider it an honor. I consider it a privilege to help somebody that's going through a situation where they think that there's no hope. And I truly believe that there is. I truly believe that there's hope at the end of this whole thing. I love the bearding community. It is one of my highlights. I have met so many wonderful people and so many beacons in this whole deal outstanding human beings, and that you don't normally get to. And then, I've met people that I never would have met if it wasn't for something growing out of my face.
Yeah.
And I consider that a blessing, and I will always consider that a blessing, and that just don't give up. There's somebody there to help you, and there's somebody that, Shannon has helped me immensely. That guy, I got a buddy of mine, Norris, that I've known since 1979. He has helped me immensely. I've been able to talk to those two guys and just put it all out there on the table and say, warts and all.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be able to just, put it all out there, and you're going to have to say it truthfully, and don't hold anything back. You're going to have, and the only way to get through a problem is to know all the facets of it so that you could get through it. And I just don't give up. I'm here for you. So let me know. I'll be there.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, thank you, Jeff. We're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna kick you to let you go enjoy the green room, but we'll be back to you here after the podcast is over, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time and your story, Jeff. It was good to talk to you again.
We'll see you soon. Hopefully see y'all guys in Pittsburgh.
Yes,
I'll be there.
We'll be there. Man, so big thanks to Jeff Raye for coming on. I do want to show something real quick, because I feel that it is a thing of value, at least to me, and to Shape the Podcast and mental health. And this is not because my co-host actually helped me come up with this, but Lucky Boy Bridco, who Jason is one of the co-owners of, back before Jason became my co-host, his daughter actually came on and told her story. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we came up with this awesome beard oil called Hold Fast. The beautiful thing about Hold Fast is that not only is it good for your mental health, but it also benefits mental health. You can go to luckyboybeardco.com, buy the oil or the balm, and $5 from each of those will go to a mental health-based charity.
And that's right now, fixed $5, regardless of promo codes or discounts or anything else. It's always $5 per bottle or per tin.
Yes. And right now we are wrapping up our first part of that, the Campfire Fund for Men's Health. We will be choosing another charity for that to go to, but that bottle will always be on Lucky Boy's website. So it's not a limited thing. You can go on there at any time, but we would like for you to go on there now, of course. But yeah, it's all about mental health, and it's all about supporting mental health. And I was honored that Lucky Boy Bridco was gracious enough to, without a doubt, Jason, of course. Doc had to think about it, but Jason said, "Yes, I'm in this to win this." So, yeah, we would appreciate that.
It was a great two entities coming together to make something good, and I will say that Doc, who doesn't always get the attention because I'm much more visible on social media, he hit it out of the park with that Semp.
He did, yes.
It is.
Yep.
It is such a great and the science behind it, and I can't even begin to give it, the justice it deserves. But the way the essential oils and their natural homeopathic healing values, the way they ground you is just, it was spectacularly derived, and it smells great. He nailed it.
Yeah, and also before we go, there was a gentleman in the breeding community who a lot of people knew. His name was Andy Trent. He was a part of the British Villains. He passed away suddenly a few days ago. So, if you could keep him and his family in your thoughts and your prayers, and especially the British Villains, because they not only lost a friend, but they also lost a brother. But man, thank you, sir, for another great podcast. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'm excited about this one as well. Angie Niemeyer, her name used to be Angie Jones. She's going to come on the podcast. A lot of people know her father. His name is Jim Jones, and I'm not talking about the Kool-Aid guy, all right? But Jim was a vital part of the Brit community. I think he's retired now, but Angie's going to come on in 2 weeks and share her story. So share this podcast out with your friends. Share the page out. You can find us on Shape the Podcast on Facebook. We have a podcast page and a group page. And then, of course, you can find us on Talking Bridge YouTube page, because they are so graciously letting me air this on their page, as well as our YouTube page, Shape the Podcast. So, man.
And also, if somebody out there has a story that they think would be inspiring or helpful to others, reach out to either Kyle or myself or the page directly, and let's get you hooked up with a night of being on the show. Tell your story and let your story help others.
Yeah, and you can also go back and watch past shows on our YouTube page. So, for instance, the one where Jason and Doc came on talking about Shape, the podcast is Hold Fast Beard Oil. You can go on and you can find that episode and you can watch all about it. So thank you guys for coming on. Again, like Jeff said, reach out if you have any problems, because I'd rather see you 6 feet above than 6 feet below. And so would Jeff, because he doesn't want to dig your grave. All right?
or burn you.
Yes, he doesn't want to burn you either. All right? Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.